Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome into my craft room on this beautiful, sunny but very cold Friday afternoon. And if you joined me last week, or rather tried to join me and couldn't, then thank you very much for coming back today. I had a bit of a nightmare last week with the technology, and I had problems the previous week, but I know why it was, and hallelujah, it was not my fault. I always worry that it will be me because I have definitely not mastered all the technology that there is to master, but it wasn't my fault. So thank you very much for joining me now. First of all, I'm just going to go over and check on my iPad and make sure that everything looks all right, because that's the place that I can see what you can see. So let's have a look. And it looks like I'm there. Hooray. That's great. Okay, so if you are there, do say hello and tell me if you can hear everything okay, because it's always good to know that it's looking and sounding okay. So the issue I had last week particularly, and also the previous week, is apparently due to Facebook, bless their hearts, who are doing some updates to the app that I actually do my lives through. So it's an app which handles my business page. And they're doing some updates which have caused some very odd things to happen. I'm hoping they will sort things out, but it usually takes them months rather than weeks. So instead I've got a workaround. Thank you to the fabulous Catherine Carroll, who is a Stampin' Up demonstrator. She's British but lives in America, and she is an absolute mine of information on everything to do with tech, and she very kindly explained to me what she thought was going on and checked that I could find the workaround, which I have, and I tested it out and it worked okay. So fingers crossed that everything is going to go okay today. So in terms of updates for you, well, we're a few weeks into the new Mini Catalogue. That will be running until April, and we're 3 weeks into Celebration. I love Celebration time. What's not to like about getting things for free? So in case you're new here and you didn't know, during Celebration, which is running for January and February this year, every time you spend £45, you can choose a product for free. There are stamp sets and packs of paper. And if you spend £90, you can choose 2 of those items, or instead you can choose one or other of the bumper stamp set or the bumper pack of paper to have free instead. There's a special brochure showing all the things that are available free, with some lovely samples to give you some inspiration. If you haven't got a Stampin' Up demonstrator who looks after you and you would like copies of the catalogues, just let me know and I will send them out to you. I'm happy to send them to you if you live basically anywhere in Europe and Ireland as well. Well, Ireland is part of Europe, isn't it? But you know what I mean. I can't send them further afield, but the European countries that we work in, I'm very, very happy to help you to get your hands on some really nice Stampin' Up goodies. The best deal, of course, is to join Stampin' Up, and always in Celebration there's a mega deal on joining Stampin' Up. Why would you want to join Stampin' Up? Well, first of all, it's the mega deal. There are 2 options, and one of them is choose now I'm going to have to grab my thing because the number's gone out of my head. Let me grab my leaflet. Fortunately, it was within arm's length. I had these numbers off pat, and then of course the minute that I go to tell them to you, they're out of my head. There we are. Choose £170 worth of Stampin' Up products, anything you like from any of the current catalogues, and then you'll only pay £99 for them. So yeah, choose £170 worth, pay £99. Or if you'd like to get your hands on the mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and you can pick it in white or in a new colour, boho blue, which is a very pretty blue colour. It'll do cutting and embossing for you. It's a smaller machine, so it's portable. I've taken mine along to classes that I've attended, and it's a fantastic little piece of kit. So if you fancy one of those, then you can choose your colour of machine, and you can choose £170 worth of Stampin' Up products, and you'll just pay £125. So it's an absolutely massive saving. And then once you've joined Stampin' Up, well, there's all sorts of things that come to you. You get your catalogues early, you can order your new products early, you get a discount on everything you buy. That starts at a 20% discount, and that can rise. There's opportunities to earn free products. You can come along to my crafting. I do a crafting session every single month. Some of them are online, some of them are in person, but if you don't live locally to me, we do online as well, and all kinds of other wonderful things. So if you think that you'd like to perhaps get a little bit of a discount on all the things that you're buying for your hobby, or maybe you'd like to share Stampin' Up with some friends, then let me know. Celebration is the best time of the year to join. Honestly, if you've got a big wish list, and most of us have, I think, including me, then why wouldn't you want to join? So Celebration is wonderful. So Celebration is happening. Today is the last day to book for the Spring Extravaganza, which is my big spring crafting day. You'll do 6 projects. It's running on March the 11th, which is a Saturday, close to me in Lymington. Just outside Lymington is where the hall is, and if you'd like any more information, let me know, but today's the last day to book for that. So if you fancy that, then get that contact to me, either a Facebook Messenger message or an email. And if you would like to book the February Fancy Fold Cards class, then today is your last opportunity to do that as well. So likewise, just contact me and I can send you out the details. Right, I think it must be time for some crafting, but before I do that, I can see there's a few of you here, so let me just have a look. Belinda's saying hi to everyone. Victoria, hello, fresh from your pantomime. It looked like it went very, very well. I saw the photos, well done. Well, it's lovely to have you here. Thank you for joining me. I'm hoping that the sound is okay. I'm assuming that it is, or one of you would have told me. So what I'm going to do now is cover you over with a little bit of washi tape while I change the angle of the camera, and then we'll do some crafting. What I'm going to be doing today is working with the Sea Turtle stamp set, which, if last week's session had worked, is what we would have done last week. But never mind, you haven't missed out. I will be showing you all that in just a moment. So bear with me just while I swap everything round. Thank you, Belinda. Belinda says the sound is good. Excellent. So Victoria's got a pantomime tonight and 4 more this weekend. Goodness me, you're going to be shattered come Sunday night. Okay, so I think I have set the mirror image on. I won't know until, actually I'm just gonna peek. Yes, it's set. The button used to light up when you'd pressed it, but you know what it's like with these touch screens. You press something, and unless there's something that toggles or lights up or changes, you're not quite sure if you've pressed firmly enough, or at least I'm not. And now that that switch does not light up, it can be quite tricky to work out whether it's actually activated or not. Right, now I'm really hoping that I've got this somewhere in the right place. You know by now that this often takes me a while to get right. That doesn't look too bad. We've got some cables, I can get rid of those. Yeah, I'm not surprised you're just chilling, Victoria. I would be too. Right, let me find my little clip the leads up. I've put my contact information down there in a very low-tech way, just in case you haven't got it. Okay, let's put a light on and see if we can get rid of those shadows. It's a difficult time of year, this time of year. Although it's lovely and bright outside, it's very hard to get rid of the shadows. I don't have a fancy lighting set up in my craft room. I have got some extra lights. If I had an entirely YouTube based business, I would be able to invest a bit more, but as it is, it's kind of a compromise, because most of my business, as lots of you know, is face to face, so that's where my investment goes. Okay, right, that's better. I think we've still got some shadowing. Doing my best to get rid of it. All right, so the Sea Turtle stamp set then. I loved this on site. I live very near the sea. In fact, I can see the Solent from my front garden. I love to spend time by the sea, and turtles, well, they're just fabulous, aren't they? So I knew that I wanted this stamp set. It coordinates beautifully with anything else you might have that is maritime based or beach based. I'll be combining it with another stamp set a little bit later on this afternoon. But if you have the Friends Are Like Seashells, if you have the new Seaside Bay, it will work really nicely with some of the images in those. It'll also go really well with Whale Done, which was a super popular set when that came out. So what I've done here is I've stamped all the images out for you so you can see. Now, on the cover, you can see that they are shown much smaller. They're only 60% of the size. So this image here is this one. And if I put my hand close to it, you know, you can see this is a really sizable image. Have I got a ruler within reach? I should have thought of this earlier. Yes, I have. Let's just measure that. So top to bottom, this large turtle image, if you're in inches, that is 3 3/8 of an inch long, and if you are in centimeters, I can't tell you because I haven't got a centimeter ruler here. This is just an inch one, but 3 inches, what's that's going to be? 5, 6, 7.5. It's going to be about 8 centimeters, something like that. And what's special about this set, apart from it being really lovely, is that the images are all reversible. So when you come to stamp with it, you can actually stamp with both sides of the image. Now, you could say that in theory you can do this with all our images, but with these they've actually specifically been designed to do so. So they've really thought about the shapes. And one side will have the detail, and when you flip it over to the solid side, then you will get a sort of a silhouette image. And these are thicker than normal photopolymer stamps, so you get a really good impression on both sides. It doesn't matter which one you're using. So we've got the large turtle, we've got a small turtle, we've got 2 sizes of starfish, a sand dollar. We've got this one here, which could be all kinds of things. It could be ripples in the water, it could be seaweed. This one here, I didn't space out my stamping very well, so we've got a bit of a gap between those, which looks like bubbles, or it could be seaweed, or it could be sand. And then this one here, which is this lovely little school of fish. I really like these. And then this really useful sort of shape, which again could, if you pop it up this way, could be seaweed, it could be ripples in the sea, whatever. And even this one actually could give you seaweed. This one could become a cave entrance. There are so many different things that this could be. You'll find it in the new Mini Catalogue on page 29, and it's a £22 stamp set. It's really lovely. The reference number is 160500 if you need that. Now, you're definitely going to need a foam mat for your stamping, because these are photopolymer stamps. They don't have any cushioning of their own, and to get all the detail to stamp out really clearly, you want a little bit of extra squidge underneath them. So I'll be using a foam stamping mat. The first thing I'm going to do is just simply show you that as well as being reversible stamps, so you get a solid and a detailed image, that also means that they are 2-step stamping stamps as well. So you can stamp the detail of the turtle onto the solid turtle. So let me just do that now. I've got far too big a block here, but never mind. Let's pop him on there. In fact, let's do the solid side. So I've put this down on my block with the flat side uppermost, and the engraved side is downwards. So the flat side, the solid shape, is the one that I'm going to stamp with first. And I have Pear Pizzazz ink here. So I'm just going to ink up my stamp in the usual way and then stamp it down. And that's given me a nice solid image. Now I'm going to clean that before I turn it over. So if you're using these, you want to have your stamping scrub or whatever else you use to clean your stamps nearby, so that it's really quick and easy to clean your stamp, peel it off, flip it over, and then I'm going to add the detail. When you're stamping the solid images, they pick up quite a lot of ink, so make sure that your ink pad is nicely re-inked. And then I've inked this up with Old Olive, and I'm just going to, apologies if you get my head, but I'm looking directly down and I'm just hovering the stamp above my card and lining up the detail on the stamp with that solid inked image, and then I'm just going to lower it down gently and press and just stamp in the usual way, and then you get this beautiful detailing. Hoping that's going to show. Let me try and get the light on it for you. Oops, we're getting a bit Heath Robinson here today, aren't we? There we are. I've tried hooking my leads out of the way a different way, and I can't say it's a great success. So I might go back to my usual method. I thought this might work better, but it's not. That's twice they've fallen off. Bear with me. There we are. Okay. So that's your two-step stamping, and that works with both the turtles beautifully, and it works with the starfish. The other shapes it will work with to an extent, but they are not completely symmetrical. So when you flip the stamp over, you don't get the kind of the ins and outs of the shape in exactly the same place. That doesn't mean you can't do it, and you can get quite an interesting kind of artistic effect when you do, but it won't work 100% perfectly. So you'll have some parts of each image kind of on their own, but it's definitely worth experimenting with because it's really fun to mix and match your colours, or if you've only got one colour of ink, ink your stamp up, stamp it off on some scrap, then stamp your solid image, and then stamp over the top with the same colour but without stamping it off, and that will give you the effect of two colours of ink. It'll look like you've got two different colours of ink. And just so you can see them side by side, there is our large turtle as well. I use the same colours, it's just that this one has been sitting drying for a while, so it's much paler. Right, let's move some of the debris and let's make a project. So for this one I thought that I would make a card using just the stamps from this stamp set. So let me dig them out and pop them on blocks, and I will also, while I'm doing that, let's put the blocks to the side, let me pull out my sample so you can see what I'm going to make. There we are. So I'm going to create a kind of an underwater scene. Pop the little turtle on something that is a more appropriate size. And I'm going to start off by having the smooth side of my stamps uppermost for the ones where I'm going to do the two-step stamping. Let's just reach another block. There we go for that one. All right, so I'll hold that up and then I'm going to get stamping. Let me try and get that in shot for you. So I'm going to stamp on soft seafoam card. So I've got a layer of that here. And where's my foam mat? There it is. I'm going to tuck this underneath my grid paper and then I can stamp off the edge of my card. and I won't get the matte inky, and then I won't transfer that ink anywhere else. And I'm just making sure that I know where the edges of my mat are. Alright, so I'm going to start off with this kind of bubble image and soft seafoam ink. And for this one, I'm just using the detail side, not the solid side. I'm going to stamp off once, just to remove some of that ink, and then stamp across my card, and you get a really nice, I don't know how well you can see that until my iPad catches up, not very well. Let's try that. A really nice subtle look when you stamp tone on tone, so the same colour ink as the card I'm using. I love soft seafoam, it's such a pretty soft green. There, and I'm just going to really work this right the way across the card, and then I'm going to come back and do it one more time on top. And I don't really know whether this is seaweed or bubbles or what, but it just gives me kind of a ground line and some depth. So I stamped these this way up. I'm now going to turn the stamp that way, and then the ups and downs kind of fit in nicely. So it's not a perfect fit, but it enables me to kind of fill in the gaps and get a more solid look across there. And now I'm just going to angle that like that. There we are. So I've now got stamping across the bottom, roughly the bottom half. I'm going to come in with Pear Pizzazz ink and this seaweed stamp. So depending on whether you have it up that way or that way, you get a different look to it. And I'm going to do some generational stamping. So I'm going to ink the stamp and stamp it once and twice. I'm going to re-ink it again. When I stamp off the page, I don't then repeat stamp, because what's happened is some of the ink has come off on the card and some of it has come off, but not to the same degree as I stamped off the edge, and it's gone on my grid paper, which means what's left on this, I'll have a line across where the border there was, and some of it will be lighter and some of it will be darker, so I won't get a good impression. So for those areas that I want to be light, if I haven't got an even layer of light ink on there, then I stamp off once. I'll try and show you what I mean over here. So if I stamp this, so it's half on the card and half off. If I was to then repeat stamp that, I'm hoping you can see there's much more ink. It's darker at the bottom than it is at the top, because some of the ink was taken off on the card and then some of it was not. And I can turn this around and get different curves. So I'm just playing with this really, with some dark which look like they're more in the foreground, and some stamped off or repeat stamped and they look more like they are in the background. And I think I just want to come up a little bit higher. You can't do this wrong. I'm just playing. I'm not analysing what I'm doing too much. I'm just enjoying stamping. There we are. So I've now got some weed coming up here. So next I'm going to stamp my turtle. So I've got my small turtle here, and I'm going to use Pear Pizzazz ink for the flat side, which will give me the solid shape, and then I'll do my detail in garden green. And let's just have him down here somewhere. I need to re-ink this ink pad because it's not completely covering my stamp, but that's okay because I'll come in with the detail stamp over the top, and it won't matter that my solid shape isn't 100% perfect. So I've just turned the stamp over after cleaning it. So I'm now going to ink up the detailed side. And just as before, I need to get my head, I'm going to turn that, actually make it a little bit easier, head directly over the top. I'm going to hover the stamp, match up the patterns, and then lower it down and press just as normal. Let's see if I can show you where we are. Now I have stamped another one of those turtles. I did it on some scrap card and I cut it out really just to save a little bit of time, and I'm going to pop him up on some 3D pads afterwards. So I have got another one there, but I just stamped it on some soft seafoam card just like this, and then just took my scissors and snipped it out. The shapes are not too bad to cut out by hand. There aren't any dies that go with these, but they aren't bad at all to cut out. So now I'm going to do the starfish. I'm going to stamp some small starfish. So again, I've got the smooth side of the stamp. This is Mango Melody ink. I'll stamp a couple of those. Then I'm going to clean the stamp and reverse it. And I'm going to change colour inks to pumpkin pie. But if I didn't have two colours of ink, I could have stamped this one off, then stamped on my project, then cleaned it, reversed it, and then used the same ink but straight from the ink pad, and that would have given me a darker and a lighter effect. So Kay is here. Hi Kay, you are very welcome. Maureen's here and says hello to everyone. Belinda says there's a lovely embossing folder with shells and seaweed that the turtle goes really well with. She can't remember the name, but she's going to show us some samples. Fabulous. Yes, I know the one you mean, Belinda. And it coordinates with the Friends Like Seashells stamp set. And I can't remember what it's called either, but if you looked in the annual catalogue, you would pick it out very, very quickly, but I know the one you mean. Belinda's saying it's a really good turtle image, isn't it? Yes, it really is. It's obviously been simplified in terms of the detail, but it's a realistic turtle. It's not a cutesy one, and I really like that. And the shape is great. They've really got the size of the flippers right. Quite often you see turtles and their front flippers are too small, but this one's perfect. So two-step stamping. So I've got the detail starfish with pumpkin pie ink, and again I'm just stamping over the top, taking my time to line up the images and pop the detailing on there. Hoping you can see that. And I stamped one of the large starfish. Again, I did it separately. I did it on soft seafoam card, so it will have the same slightly pale green tone underneath the ink. Double stamped it the same Mango Melody ink with the detail in pumpkin pie, and just cut that out. So again, I did that earlier just to save us a little bit of time today, and I'll be adding that on with my extra turtle in a minute. And then the last image I'm going to stamp is with my Mango Melody ink, and I'm going to stamp these little fish. I love these. So I've got the detailed side that I'm inking, and we'll have some of them coming in over here. And then what I really like about this is that if you turn the stamp round, the fish work this way up as well. They don't look like they're upside down, so you can have fish in both directions, which has to be a good thing. So that's all my stamping of this done. So I'm going to pop this onto my card and then add the final touches afterwards. So I have a layer of Pear Pizzazz card. Try and find my glue. And I've forgotten to show you the measurements, but I will do that momentarily, as our American friends say. And my card base is garden green, and I've made it a landscape card base, so the fold is on the left hand side. Alright, so I've got some stamping dimensionals here, little foam pads, just for us to add our extra elements on here. So I've got the big ones and the small ones, and I might end up snipping some of those edge pieces because his fins are actually quite narrow. So let's snip some of that edge. There we are. Even the minis are too deep or too wide for his little turtle fins. One more piece. There we are. So now he should be well supported, and he won't get squashed when he goes through the post office machinery. Yeah, I think I'll pop him over here, coming through the seaweed. And then if I can find my bigger starfish, pop that down there somewhere. I don't want it absolutely in the middle, that just looks a little bit too ranged for my liking. Put him very slightly off center. So again, I've used a mixture of big and mini stamping dimensionals. If you don't have the mini ones, just cut the big ones in half or quarters, that works fine. Bits of dimensional backing all over me. We all know how they end up over the entire house. There we are. So that's my card front finished. Just got the insert to stamp and then we're done. Oh, knocked that lead again. Try and get this in the right place for you. I'm having to watching it on my iPad. There is quite a long time lag, and then I have to move the card the opposite way to the way I want it to show. So honestly, it's a challenge. Right, let me get some of these bits of dimensionals out of the way and bring in my insert. Now I'm not going to put a sentiment on this card because I think it will work for all kinds of occasions. So if I leave it blank, then I'll have the card I need for whatever I need it for. So inside, all I'm going to do is just stamp the detailed little turtle on one corner, just so we've got something pretty inside. There we are. It's such a lovely crisp image. Definitely stamp with a foam mat underneath, and if your order with your foam mat doesn't come in time and you want to start stamping, then an old magazine or two underneath. You might have a mouse mat. Nobody seems to use mouse mats anymore, but anyway, back in the day we used to use computer mouse mats. That will probably do the trick. Just something that's a little bit softer than your tabletop. And there we are. So there's the two versions. On this one we've got an extra starfish and the fish are at a bit more of a jaunty angle, but it's essentially the same card. And I've used most of the images in the stamp set, which is always very satisfying, I think. I'm going to have a little bit of a clear up, and while I do that I will put out the measurements for the card for you, just in case. I know quite often people like to have the actual sizes of the layers and so on. Let me put that there for you. I'm hoping that you can read that okay. My card base was 11.5 inches by 4, and I scored it at 5 3/4 of an inch. The contrast layer is the same size as the insert, and that was 5.5 inches by 3 3/4 of an inch. And then the layer that I stamped on, and you'll remember I used soft seafoam card for that, was 5 3/8 of an inch by 3 5/8 of an inch, because I just wanted a very narrow border around it. So I'm going to clean the stamps. I'll leave that up for you, and I'll clean stamps off to the side. Alright, so let's move those. And bring in some new toys. And I'll show you what these are in just a moment. Right, so what I've done is brought in another stamp set, which is Paradise Palms. This is in the annual catalogue. I love this set because I love the beach, and the tropics feel particularly appealing on such a cold day in the British winter. And I'm going to make a card that includes the small turtle from the Sea Turtle set and some of the stamps from this set. I must just have some water before I do, though. I hope you didn't get the noise of me swallowing there, which is not pleasant. So I'll show you my sample. I'm actually going to change this slightly because some of the placement wasn't quite as I had hoped for this, but my thinking on this was the little turtles that come to the beach or leave the beaches. Obviously the mums come up, they build the nests, the babies hatch, and then they all run back down to the sea. And I haven't really decided whether this is a mum coming in to lay her eggs or whether it's a baby that hasn't quite got himself properly turned around to go down to the sea. But either way, it's a tropical beach with a little turtle on it. So I'm going to change this slightly as we go along. You'll see as I do that. Here are the measurements, first of all. So this is going to make us a card that is 5 inches by 7 inches, so a little bit bigger than usual. My card base is Pool Party colour, and it's 10 inches by 7 inches, scored at 5 inches, which gives me a portrait orientation card that is 7 inches by 5 inches. I've got a contrast layer of soft suede, which measures 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. So I've just gone down by 1/4 of an inch, and that's the same size as my insert. And then the layer I'm going to stamp on is just down by 1/8 of an inch, which is 4 5/8 by 6 5/8. So those are my sizings. And let's do some stamping. Once again, I need my foam mat underneath. Actually, I'm going to turn it round so that's portrait orientation as well, which makes much more sense. Make sure I know where the edges are. Okay, so I'm going to start off by stamping the sand. So I have Daffodil Delight ink, and actually I've carefully put the mat under there, and of course some of my stamps are red rubber. I don't need it for the red rubber stamps because that will be too much squidge and I will get blurry images. Right, so Daffodil Delight ink, and I've got this image from the Paradise Palms set. This is a great image. This can be land, it can be beach, it can be sea, it can be clouds. It's just a shape, and you can use it for whatever you imagine it to be. So in my head this is an island, but I'm kind of going to extend it all the way across. And again, I'm twisting and turning the stamp to fit. So I end up with roughly a solid area of yellow, but it will have some texture in it, partly because the stamp is textured and partly because I'm overlapping some of the stamping. So I don't want big gaps in this. And I'm actually making this beach a little bit wider than the one on my previous card was, which I think is going to work better, and it's slightly higher. So now I'm going to clean that stamp because I'm going to use it again to stamp the sea. Now there's nothing very exact about the way I'm stamping this. It can overlap a previous image, and that will be absolutely fine. We're not looking for perfect accuracy here. We're not looking for a photographic image. We're just giving an impression of sand and sea. So this is Pool Party ink, and I'm going to just repeat stamp this all the way down to the bottom of the card. And I've got some areas where the yellow and the turquoise overlap, which is absolutely perfect because that is just the wave lapping on the sand. And again, this is one of those stamps I was describing earlier that has a wiggly outline to it, so you can turn it round and fit a bump on one image that you've stamped into a kind of a hollow on the next image, and you get a lot of movement. This really does look like waves on the shore, and there is nothing technical about what I'm doing at all. I'm sort of jigsaw puzzle piecing these images, but if you know me, you'll know I can't stand jigsaws, so there's nothing super accurate about what I'm doing. There we are. So let me try and show you that as well. So I've got more sea and more sand than on the sample I showed you, which is going to give me more space for my little turtle when the time comes. So now I'm going to stamp a couple of palm trees. I stamped 3 on my first sample. I might only do 2 on this. I'll see how much space they take up. So the Images in Paradise Palms set give you 2 tree trunks. One is pretty straight and one is curved. So I'm going to start off with the straight one on the left, and this is soft suede ink. And I'm going to put the fronds on it before I stamp the next one, just to make sure that they are going to fit, that I've got space for them. So I've got Old Olive ink here. And again, there are 2 palm tree tops here. It doesn't really matter which one you use on which tree trunk. It just gives you some variation. And if I can show you, let me find something to point with my scissors. You see there's a gap between like the center of the fronds and then the edge of the stamp. Now you can either guesstimate when you stamp and stamp with a bit of an overlap, which will mean that the join in your palm fronds and the trunk matches up nicely, or you can stamp it and leave a gap and then stamp some coconuts in the space, which is what I'm going to do. So if I show you this now, we've got palm fronds which are actually detached from the trunk, but don't worry, we'll sort that out. And I'm sure that's why they've given you the coconuts, so that if you get a gap you can fill it in. So now I'm going to stamp this leaning palm. And you get those palm trees, don't you, that kind of lean right out across the water on these tropical beaches. And that's what this one makes me think of. So there's the leaves, and then I'm going to bring in this tiny little stamp, which is the coconuts. And just stamp that into that gap. There we are. I may come back and add another tree, I may not. Now, before I do anything else, I'm just going to find, I've got a blending brush down here on the floor. Let's see if I can reach it. I say on the floor, it's not actually on the floor, it's in a bucket of kit that's on the floor. There we are. Oh, by the way, while I'm at it, I love the ink blending brushes, and if you've been watching me for a while, you'll have seen me use them a lot. But look, these are the little ones. Aren't they sweet? Yes, small blending brushes. So the handle is the same size, which is great because you're not having to hold something really tiny. But you can see the brush itself is about 1/3 of the size. I'm going to particularly enjoy using these when I'm blending ink through a stencil, but they're going to be good for any kind of detailed work. I just thought I must show those to you. Mine just arrived and they are very nice. All right, now I think I don't want a bright blue sky, but this is just too white, so I'm going to blend just a hint of Pool Party ink into the sky. I don't really want a turquoise sky, but I do want a little bit of something on there. So I've picked up some Pool Party ink on my brush. I'm just going to work it into the bristles using a spare block. That just makes sure I don't have any big blobs of ink on there. And then I test it on my grid paper just to make sure it's not going to be really bold. And then I'm going to lightly blend the blue over that white. It's just to knock the white back a little bit. And I can go over the top of my stamping, that will be fine. Just want a hint of blue, and this probably won't even show up for you. There we go. And just using a tiny amount of ink, it's amazing what a long way it goes. There we are, and that's just given me a very, very pale blue sky. Actually, I think you probably can see it looking at my iPad, which is finally catching up on me doing that. I think you can see that. Great. The final step is to add a sentiment. I really love this one that's in the Paradise Palm stamp set. It says, wishing you a warm and beachy kind of day. That's the best kind of day, in my opinion. I know not everybody likes the beach and not everybody likes the heat, but a warm day on the beach is pretty much perfect in my book. I'm just going to check that I've got this on this block straight. I didn't have a chance to check before I came on live, and yes, that looks pretty good to me. I'm going to stamp this just up in the corner. Well, not in the corner, towards the corner. There we are. And then finally, I just need to find that little snail, not snail, turtle even, that I cut out. And of course, he's gone walkabout, hasn't he? I may have to make a new one. Let me just move. The vast amount of debris that I have on my table. I've only made 2 cards and I've got stuff everywhere. Honestly, you wouldn't believe it. No, I can't find the turtle. Never mind, let's make another one. You can watch me cut him out instead. So I've just got some ordinary white card here, basic white card. I have Old Olive stamp pad, so we're going to stamp the smooth turtle image in that, and I can feel that that's the textured one, so let's just reverse it. And that ink was, did I say pear? It's Old Olive. I wonder if I told you the wrong colour. Then I'm going to clean the turtle so that I can reverse him again and get the detail. And I'm going to stamp the detail in Mossy Meadow ink. Of course, as soon as I've done this, I will find the one that I had pre-stamped and cut. No, not that one. Were you shouting you haven't reversed the stamp? Because I hadn't. Right, let's try again. Reverse the stamp. I can feel that's the textured side. So let's now stamp the detail on top. My Old Olive ink underneath is still quite dark, but it will lighten as it dries. That solid stamp puts down a lot of ink, so it does take a little while. It won't smudge, but it will go lighter as it dries. Okay, so let's just snip out this little turtle. I told you it wasn't too difficult, so let's just do that now. Now, normally when I'm cutting out, I'll just do a little bit to show you. I would leave, I'm hoping this will show if I put it on something dark. I would leave a white edge. I've just done that little bit of flipper there around it because that's much more forgiving. However, because I'm going to add this on to my stamped piece and I don't want there to be a white border around the turtle, I'm actually cutting just inside the stamped line, which means I do have to be a little bit more careful, because if I take a big chunk out of him, it's going to notice, whereas you can get away with a few more wobbles if you have a white border. It's kind of very, very wiggly around the edges of the flippers here. So I'm opening and closing my scissors, but other than that, I'm not moving them. I'm not moving them like this. I'm keeping my scissors still. I've got the card in them at about a 45-degree angle. And I'm using my left hand, the hand that isn't holding the scissors, to guide the card around and so I'm moving the card to cut in the wiggles rather than moving my scissor hand. I hope that makes sense. If that's not something that comes naturally to you, I encourage you to try it and to practice it a little bit. Once it becomes second nature, fussy cutting becomes a pleasure. Whenever I post a picture of something that involved a lot of fussy cutting, I do get people that say it's their idea of hell, and I understand that. I actually love fussy cutting. I find it very relaxing. But having a good technique does make it a lot easier. I've been quite picky about all those wiggles on the flippers, but you don't have to be. You could just cut them smoothly. Just cut off some of that excess, which is catching. There we are. One little turtle. There. So I think the proportions on this are much better. He's got more sea he's coming out of. Just wondering whether to, I'm going to give it a go and we'll see what we think. I'm going to stamp a bit of that wave kind of over the bottom half of him, just to change the colour. There he looks a bit like he's floating on the top. So I'm hoping, I haven't tried this, so there we go. I'm hoping that if I stamp that pool party on him, it will just change the colour of part of his body, so he looks a bit more like he's coming out of the waves. There we are. So he hasn't gone blue, but it has added some darker shading. I'm hoping you can see that. Yeah, I think that works. So it looks like that part of him is under the waves. And I'm going to stick him down flat rather than on foam pads. Just deciding where he needs to go. There, I think. So I have my soft suede layer here, which is going to give me just a really narrow dark border around the outside, just to set off the colour. So that is the front of my card, and all I have to do now is the insert. So on my original sample I just created like a little mini island there, and I think I'm going to do something very similar this time round because I rather like that. So actually I'm going to stamp the words first. I was going straight for the water then, but let's stamp the words first. And I have this happy birthday image, which is in the Paradise Palm set. It's a great set, that one. If you haven't got it, then you might like to think about it. It's really lovely. particularly for people who have summer birthdays. In my family, a lot of us have summer birthdays. Right, so a little bit of water. And then I'm going to clean the stamp and use it for sand again. There we go. Let's do a little bit more. Then I want a palm tree. Palm fronds. A few coconuts. And actually I need just a little bit more sand, I think, because my tree is not quite floating but almost, so I just need a little bit more yellow on there. Ah, it's alright, I've got yellow on the stamp. I thought perhaps I still had blue on the stamp, but I've got daffodil on it, so just a little bit more sand. That's better. Pop the insert inside. And that card is finished. Let me lift it up a little bit and show you. Can't get it very big for you. Get a little bit bigger than that, I think. There we go. And I'll move it just to try and show you the detail at the bottom there. It's actually, the pattern on his shell actually shows more clearly than I think the camera is suggesting. Right, so believe it or not, an hour has gone by. There are our two cards. So lots of stamping today, which has been really nice. A little bit of fussy cutting. So this one here, we used several colours and we just used the sea turtle stamp set. And on these images here where we've done two-step stamping, we used the solid side of the stamp and then reversed it and stamped the detail. And I pointed out to you that the fish can be stamped both ways round. You can turn the fish stamp round and have fish from both directions, which I think is a great piece of design. And then this one, I brought in the beautiful Paradise Palms stamp set and just added the small turtle to it. And I hope you can see how easy it is to build up an almost impressionistic kind of beach scene using these stamps. They just stamp them next to each other and you can just build it up. This could equally be a sunrise or a sunset if I'd stamped it the other side of my card with different colours. It's a really useful shaped image, that one, and I do love being able to create beach scenes. Right, so let me put the camera back up. Oh, and before I do, actually, while it's down on my desk, let me show you what I'm going to be focusing on next week, because it's easier probably to show you than it is to explain it. So this stamp set, now I have a feeling that this is one of the sets in the new catalogue that people are going to look at and think, I don't know what to do with that. So I thought I will have a play and give you some ideas next week. This is the picturesque stamp set. So I'm going to be playing with that this time next week, which I guess will be the 27th, 2 o'clock next week, all being well. The technical bugs will stay away as they have today. I think this workaround is definitely a good thing to have found out about. So for now, I'm just going to turn the camera back up and say my goodbyes. So let me cover you over while I do all the moving around. And hopefully that is the reverse thing, so that I won't be looking like I'm in Australia. Okay, here we are again. So thank you very much indeed for joining me. I hope you have a lovely weekend, whatever you're doing. And I will really look forward to seeing you again this time, not this time, 2 o'clock, an hour ago, 2 o'clock on Friday of next week. Thanks again. Bye-bye. Okay, so now I just need to find the stop button. There it is. Bye-bye.